"Turn off the machines," said the little girl, promising to cure a millionaire who had been in a coma for 10 years. But moments later, something terrible happened. Let me know what you thought of this story by giving it a rating from 0 to 10 and tell me what city you're watching from. I'd love to know if you liked my story and get to know you better. So please subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The hum of the machines echoed through the corridor of St. Mark's Hospital like a melancholic symphony that never ceased. Eleanor Morgan, 44, walked with measured steps along the same path she had traversed every day for a decade. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the folder of documents she needed to show her brother, knowing he would never respond. In room 312, Arthur Morgan lay motionless in the hospital bed, his 47-year-old body kept alive by an intricate web of tubes and machines. The businessman who had once commanded one of the largest hauling companies in Oakland now depended on equipment for every breath. 10 years had passed since that rainy night when everything changed forever. "Good morning, Arthur," Eleanor murmured, adjusting the wilted flowers in the vase beside the bed. "I brought the October reports. The company is, well, it's running." Her voice caught on the lie. Morgan Hauling was crumbling, and she could no longer hide the truth, not even from an unconscious brother. Outside, the morning sun of Oakland illuminated the streets near the hospital, where a small figure moved among the dumpsters with the agility of someone who knew every corner. Lily, only 4 years old, carried a plastic bag bigger than herself, collecting cans with the determination of an adult. Her brown hair was tied back with an old rubber band, and her clothes, though clean, showed the careful patches made by her grandmother, Claire. "Grandma, I found 5 more!" Lily shouted, running toward the 68-year-old woman who was resting in the shade of a tree near the hospital entrance. Claire smiled with difficulty, her wheezing breath highlighting the lung problems that had plagued her for years. "Very good, my little one. You're my little warrior," Claire said, stroking the girl's face. "But you remember what Grandma said about not going too far into the hospital, right?" Lily nodded, but her curious eyes always turned to the windows of the tall building. There was something about that place that drew her in inexplicably. During the 9 months they had lived nearby, she had developed a peculiar routine. She would talk to patients she met in the outer gardens, offering words of comfort that seemed to flow naturally from her childish heart. Inside the hospital, Eleanor was finishing her daily visit when her cell phone rang. It was Mark, her lawyer, with news she dreaded receiving. "Eleanor, we need to talk urgently. The company's situation is more complicated than we imagined," said the tense voice on the other end of the line. "Can't it be over the phone?" she whispered, looking at her unconscious brother. "We lost 3 more contracts this week. They all went to Horizon Logistics. If we don't do something soon..." Eleanor hung up abruptly, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. Horizon Logistics was systematically destroying everything she and Arthur had built, and she couldn't understand how their main competitor always knew exactly what bids to make to steal their clients. As she walked down the corridor, lost in her dark thoughts, she didn't notice the small figure watching through the ground floor window. Lily had found a way to climb the tree near the building and could see inside some of the rooms. That was how, for the first time, her eyes met the still figure of Arthur. "Grandma, there's a man up there who looks very sad," Lily said when she climbed down from the tree. "What do you mean, honey?" "He's lying down, but he's not sleeping. He's sad. I can feel it." Claire frowned, worried about her granddaughter's strange sensitivity. Since she was little, Lily had shown a disquieting ability to perceive the suffering of others, something her mother Laura always said was a special gift. That afternoon, as Eleanor met with Mark in her makeshift office at a cafe near the hospital, the news only got worse. "They know our proposals before we even submit them," Mark said. spreading documents across the table. It's as if they have internal access to our information. That's impossible. Only you and I have access to the contracts, Eleanor replied, but a shadow of doubt crossed her eyes. Eleanor, there's something I need to tell you. I investigated Horizon Logistics, and I found out who the owner is. The silence that followed was deafening. It's Marcus, isn't it? She murmured, her voice barely audible. Marcus Thorne, Arthur's old partner. The name dropped like a bomb between them. Marcus Thorne had been Arthur's best friend and partner for over 15 years, until a terrible fight separated them shortly before the accident. Eleanor never knew exactly what had caused the rift, but she remembered the violent arguments between the two in the last months before the tragedy. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Lily had managed to convince one of the nurses, John, to let her accompany him on his rounds. The 35-year-old man had been moved by the story of the girl and her grandmother, and he often allowed her to talk to patients who were alone. She has a special way with patients, John would explain to his colleagues. It's amazing how she can calm people who are suffering. It was during one of these informal rounds that Lily finally reached room 312. She stopped at the door, watching Arthur with her big, curious eyes. Is he dreaming? She asked John. We don't know, little one. He's been like this for a long time. Lily approached the bed slowly, as if she instinctively knew she was in the presence of something important. She extended her small hand and gently touched Arthur's arm. Hi, sad mister. I know you can hear me. At that moment, something inexplicable happened. Arthur's monitors began to emit different sounds. His heart rate changed slightly, and a single tear rolled down his motionless face. John watched the scene in surprise. But before he could react, Lily had already left the room, whispering something he couldn't quite understand. Mommy said you were going to wake up one day. 3 weeks had passed since the first encounter between Lily and Arthur, and the girl had become a constant presence in the corridors of St. Mark's Hospital. Her grandmother, Claire, worried about her increasingly frequent coughing fits, had allowed her granddaughter to spend more time inside the building during the hottest afternoons, when the outside air became suffocating for her weakened lungs. John, the nurse who had grown fond of the pair, created an informal routine where Lily accompanied him during his rounds. The girl had developed a special connection with the patients, offering words of comfort that seemed to come from a wisdom far beyond her 4 years. Mrs. Mary, the sky is very blue outside today. I bet your son will come to visit you today, Lily would say to an elderly woman awaiting surgery, holding her hand tenderly. How do you know, my dear? The woman would ask, her eyes filling with tears. Because the people who love us always show up when we need them most. Mary smiled for the first time in days, and 2 hours later, her son did indeed show up to visit her. Meanwhile, Eleanor was living her worst nightmares while awake. Sitting in the hospital reception, waiting for her meeting with Dr. Henry Stevens, the neurologist in charge of Arthur's case, she received a call that made her tremble. Eleanor, it's Mark. We lost the Sterling Oil contract. It was our last big account, said the lawyer's defeated voice. What do you mean we lost it? The proposal was a lock. Horizon Logistics submitted an offer identical to ours, but 5% lower. It's impossible for them to have reached those numbers without access to our calculations. Eleanor hung up the phone with trembling hands. The company she had tried to keep alive for 10 years was dying before her eyes, and she couldn't understand how Marcus always managed to be one step ahead. Mrs. Morgan? A voice called from behind her. It was Dr. Stevens, a 52-year-old man with the tired eyes of someone who had seen many families suffer. Can we talk about your brother's condition? In the doctor's office, the news was not encouraging. 10 years in a vegetative state is a very long time, Eleanor. The neurological signs remain stable, but there are no indications of improvement, the doctor explained, consulting the charts. Doctor, I need to ask something that might seem strange. Is there any possibility, however minimal, that he can hear what we say to him? Dr. Stevens adjusted his glasses thoughtfully. There are studies that suggest patients in a coma may have some level of awareness, but in Arthur's case, it's just that one of the nurses mentioned that his monitors reacted differently when a child visited his room. What child? Eleanor realized she had revealed something she probably shouldn't have. A girl who has permission to talk to some patients. The doctor frowned. Eleanor, you know that unauthorized visits can be problematic. If there was any reaction on the equipment, we need to investigate. At that moment, on the upper floor, Lily was right in room 312, talking quietly to Arthur while John checked on other patients nearby. Mr. Arthur, I know you can hear me, she whispered, sitting in the chair beside the bed. My mommy always said that some people stay asleep because they're tired of suffering, but she also said there's always a reason to wake up. The monitors began to beep faster, and Lily noticed a subtle change in the man's breathing. You have someone who needs you, don't you? I feel it. The lady who comes to visit you every day is very sad. She needs you to wake up. It was then that a fragmented memory pierced through Arthur's hazy mind. A familiar voice, a woman crying, words he couldn't fully comprehend. I'm sorry, Arthur. I'm sorry for everything. Our daughter will grow up knowing you're a good man. Arthur's eyes moved slightly under his closed eyelids, and his fingers twitched almost imperceptibly. Lily saw the movement and held his hand with her small ones. It's okay. I'll stay here until you can wake up properly. Meanwhile, 3 floors below, Eleanor had decided to investigate for herself who this mysterious child visiting her brother was. She asked at the reception and found out it was a girl who lived with her grandmother nearby, collecting recyclables. Her grandma has severe respiratory problems, explained Carla, the receptionist. The girl is an angel, always trying to help others. Eleanor left the hospital determined to find this pair. It didn't take long to locate Claire, who was resting under her usual tree, watching her granddaughter through the hospital window. Excuse me, ma'am, I'm Eleanor Morgan, sister of the patient Arthur from room 312. Claire looked up, immediately defensive. If we've caused any trouble, we're sorry. Lily doesn't harm anyone. No, it's not that. Actually, I'd like to talk about the visits your granddaughter makes to my brother. A heavy silence fell between the two women. Claire began to cough violently, and Eleanor realized how frail she was. Lily has a special gift for helping people who are suffering, Claire said when she recovered. She inherited it from her mother. From her mother? Where is her mother? Claire's eyes filled with tears. Laura left us 6 months ago. Cancer. It was very fast. Eleanor felt a tightness in her chest. I'm so sorry. It must be very difficult to care for the girl alone, especially with your health problems. Lily is the one who takes care of me, really. She's strong, stronger than any child should have to be. At that moment, Lily came running down the hospital steps, her eyes shining with excitement. Grandma! Grandma! Mr. Arthur moved his hand. He's trying to wake up. Eleanor felt her world spin. What do you mean he moved his hand? Lily looked at the unknown woman with curiosity. Do you know Mr. Arthur? He's my brother. Lily's eyes widened, and she ran to hug Eleanor's legs. Then you're the sad lady. I knew you were real. Lily, don't. Claire tried to intervene, but the girl was already talking excitedly. Your brother is trying to wake up because he knows you need him. My mommy always said that love wakes people up when they're lost. Eleanor knelt to the girl's level, her eyes filling with tears. There was something about this child that touched her deeply, a purity and a wisdom she couldn't comprehend. Lily, Would you like to accompany me to see my brother, officially this time? The girl nodded vigorously, and the three of them went up together to room 312. When they entered, John was checking the monitors with a worried expression. "Miss Eleanor, I'm glad you're here. There have been some changes in your brother's vital signs over the last few hours." "What kind of changes?" "Eye movements, small muscle reflexes. They're subtle signs, but different from the normal pattern." Lily approached the bed and held Arthur's hand again. "Hi, Mr. Arthur. I brought your sister to see you." At that instant, something extraordinary happened. Arthur's eyes slowly opened, struggling to focus on the girl's face. His mouth moved slightly, trying to form words that couldn't come out. Eleanor screamed, John ran to call the doctor, and Claire clutched her chest, overcome with emotion. But Lily remained calm, stroking the hand of the man who was awakening after a decade of silence. "Welcome back," she whispered, as Arthur's confused eyes tried to understand where he was and who all these people around him were. Arthur's awakening after 10 years in a coma became the most talked about news at St. Mark's Hospital. For the next 3 days, a team of specialists took turns at his bedside, performing neurological exams and trying to understand what had triggered his sudden recovery. "It's absolutely extraordinary," Dr. Stevens told Eleanor, consulting the test results. "There's no medical explanation for what happened. An awakening after so long, especially so abruptly, defies everything we know about prolonged vegetative states." Eleanor watched her brother through the glass of the ICU, where he remained under intensive observation. Arthur was conscious but confused, his mind struggling to process a lost decade. He recognized Eleanor, but seemed lost in time, as if he were still living in the year of the accident. "Eleanor," Arthur called in a hoarse voice when she entered the room. "What day is it? Why am I in the hospital?" It was the 10th time he had asked the same question in the last 48 hours. His recent memory was fragmented, and he couldn't understand why his sister seemed to have aged so much. "Arthur, you need to rest. We'll talk gradually," Eleanor replied, avoiding detailed explanations that might shock him. "I need to go to the company. We have an important meeting with Sterling Oil this week," Arthur insisted, trying to get out of bed. Eleanor's heart broke. He had no idea the company was on the verge of bankruptcy, that the meeting with Sterling Oil had happened 3 weeks ago and resulted in another defeat to Marcus. Meanwhile, in the hospital corridor, Lily waited patiently with her grandmother Claire, who had insisted on accompanying her granddaughter on another visit. The girl carried a drawing she had made especially for Arthur, a figure lying in a bed surrounded by smiling people. "Grandma, why won't the sad lady let me see Mr. Arthur?" Lily asked, referring to the visitor restriction imposed by the doctors. "Because he's still recovering, my dear. Sometimes when people sleep for a very long time, they need a little while to remember how the world works." Claire watched Eleanor through the glass and noticed the weight she carried on her shoulders. There was something familiar about that woman, something that stirred her memories. Suddenly, a memory surfaced. Years ago, when Laura worked as a cleaner at the hospital, she had mentioned a hauling company where she had worked before. "Lily, do you remember when Mommy used to tell stories about her job before you were born? She said she worked at a place with big trucks and that she had a boss who was good but got angry with her." Claire felt a chill run down her spine. Could it be that Arthur was Laura's former boss? The coincidence seemed impossible, but the more she thought about it, the more the pieces fit together. At that moment, John approached them with a worried expression. "Mrs. Claire, can I speak with you in private?" They moved a few feet away, leaving Lily distracted with her drawing. "Ma'am, I shouldn't be saying this, but I've noticed you're not well. Your lips are bluish, and your breathing is getting more difficult." "I know, John, but I can't leave Lily alone in the world." You need urgent medical treatment. And the girl. Well, there are protocols for children in vulnerable situations. No! Claire's voice came out louder than she intended, making Lily look in their direction. I'm sorry, but Lily can't go to an orphanage. She's all I have left of my Laura. John understood the elderly woman's desperation, but he knew the situation was becoming unsustainable. 2 floors up, Eleanor received an unexpected visit from Mark, her lawyer, who arrived at the hospital with urgent documents and a grim expression. Eleanor, I can't put this conversation off any longer. The company has debts of $8 million. Without Arthur's signature authorizing the sale of some assets, we'll go bankrupt in 2 weeks. How did we get to this point, Mark? You assured me the situation was under control. I tried, but the contract losses were too rapid, and there's something I discovered about Horizon Logistics that will shock you. Eleanor braced for the worst. Marcus isn't just competing with us. He has inside information on all our bids. Someone is feeding him information. That's impossible. Only the 2 of us have access. Eleanor, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. Are you absolutely sure there's no one else with access to the documents? I'm sure. I type all the proposals myself, print them at home, and deliver them personally to clients. Mark watched her intently. And the drafts, the preliminary calculations, where do you make those notes? Eleanor fell silent, an uncomfortable memory surfacing in her mind. For the past few months, she had developed the habit of bringing work home, sometimes leaving documents scattered on the kitchen table in the middle of the night when she couldn't sleep. Eleanor, do you live alone? I do, but... She paused, remembering the time she had found papers slightly out of place in the morning. She had attributed it to her own distraction, but now she began to question it. Mark, do you think someone could be entering my house? It's a possibility we need to consider. At that moment, Eleanor's cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? Eleanor Morgan, asked a male voice she recognized immediately. Marcus, yes, it's me. I heard our dear Arthur finally woke up. What a miracle, isn't it? How did you know? Oakland is a small town, Eleanor. News travels fast. There was something in Marcus's voice that sent a chill down her spine, an excessive confidence, as if he knew something she didn't. What do you want, Marcus? I want to make a proposal, a generous offer for Morgan Halling, enough to pay off all the debts and still leave something for you and Arthur to start over. And why would you do that? Because, contrary to what you might think, I don't hold a grudge. Arthur and I were friends once. Eleanor looked at Mark, who was shaking his head no. I'm not interested. Eleanor, you don't understand. I'm not asking. I'm informing you of what's going to happen. Your company will be mine, one way or another. The call ended, leaving Eleanor trembling. Meanwhile, in the ICU room, Arthur was fighting through the fog of his confused mind when a sudden memory hit him like a lightning bolt. A violent argument, shouts, accusations of betrayal. Marcus storming out, promising he would regret his choices. Laura, Arthur muttered, the name appearing from nowhere in his mind. A nurse checking his vitals approached. Did you say something, Mr. Morgan? Laura. Where is Laura? Who is Laura? She worked for me. I need to talk to her. I need to ask. The words trailed off as fragments of memories began to reorganize in his mind. He vaguely remembered a kind, always smiling employee who had left the company abruptly. There was something important about her, something he had discovered too late. In the hallway, Lily managed to slip away from her grandmother's watch and approached the window of Arthur's room. When she saw him awake, her eyes shone with joy. Arthur saw her through the glass and felt an inexplicable connection to the child. There was something familiar about her, something that stirred his emotions in a way he couldn't explain. Lily placed her small hand on the glass and smiled at him. Arthur reciprocated, raising his hand to the glass, mirroring her gesture. At that moment, without either of them knowing, a truth that would change everything was about to come to light. A week after Arthur's awakening, the doctors finally allowed him to have longer visits. His physical recovery surprised the entire medical team, but his memory remained fragmented, like a jigsaw puzzle with pieces scattered across a lost decade. Eleanor arrived at the hospital that morning with a folder full of documents that needed her brother's urgent signature. The company's situation had become desperate, and she saw no alternative but to sell some assets to save what was left of the family business. "Arthur, I need you to sign some papers," she said, trying to maintain a casual tone. "They're just administrative formalities." Arthur looked at the documents with suspicion. Although his mind was still foggy, his business instincts remained sharp. "Eleanor, these are asset sale documents. Why are we selling the trucks? It's temporary, just a reorganization." "Don't lie to me." Arthur's voice came out stronger than he intended. "I may not remember the last 10 years, but I know a liquidation document when I see one." Eleanor sat down in the chair beside the bed, defeated. She could no longer hide the truth. "The company is going bankrupt, Arthur. We've lost almost all our contracts to Horizon Logistics. If we don't do something urgently, we're going to lose everything." "Horizon Logistics? I've never heard of that company." "It's Marcus's." The name hit Arthur like a punch. Fragments of memories began to reorganize. Violent arguments, accusations, a friendship irreparably broken. Marcus, Arthur pressed his temples, trying to force the memories. There was a fight, wasn't there? Something about money. Or, "Arthur, don't force it. The doctor said the memories will return gradually." But something in Eleanor's expression bothered him. There were secrets in her eyes, things she wasn't telling. At that moment, a soft knock on the door interrupted the tense conversation. It was John, accompanied by Lily and Claire. "Excuse me, may I come in?" Little Lily wanted to give something to Mr. Arthur. Arthur smiled when he saw the girl, again feeling that inexplicable connection he had experienced through the glass. "Hello, little one. How are you?" Lily approached timidly and handed him the drawing she had made. It was a figure of a man in a bed, surrounded by people who loved him, with the sun shining through the window. "This is you waking up. My mommy always said that after the storm, the sun always comes out. Your mother sounds like she was very wise. What was her name?" "Laura." The name echoed in the room like thunder. Arthur felt all the blood drain from his face, and suppressed memories began to emerge like a bursting dam. Eleanor turned pale, immediately recognizing the name. Laura had been one of the most beloved employees at the company, a kind woman who had left abruptly years ago, shortly before Arthur's accident. "Laura Santos?" Arthur asked in a trembling voice. "Yes, sir. Did you know my mother?" Claire, who had remained silent, approached the bed. "Arthur Morgan. So it is you. Laura spoke a lot about you." "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I need to understand. Laura worked for me, but she left the company. There was a misunderstanding." Arthur's words were interrupted by a wave of memories that hit him violently. He saw himself in his office, arguing with Marcus about financial discrepancies. Laura had discovered something, tried to warn him about irregularities in the accounting books, but he had misinterpreted the situation, thought she was involved. "My God," Arthur whispered, covering his face with his hands. "I made a terrible mistake." "What are you talking about?" Eleanor asked, confused. "Laura tried to warn me about something that was happening at the company, about money that was disappearing. But I thought she was involved. I fired her without even hearing her out." The silence in the room was deafening. Lily looked at Arthur with her big eyes, trying to understand what was happening. "Mr. Arthur, why are you crying?" she asked, gently touching his hand. "Because I did something very bad to your mother, little one, and now it's too late to ask for forgiveness." Claire moved closer to the bed. "Mr. Arthur, may I tell you something that might comfort you? Laura never held a grudge against you. She used to say that people sometimes get confused when they're worried. How could she have forgiven me after what I did? Because my daughter believed there is good in everyone, even when they make mistakes." At that moment, the door opened and Mark rushed in, carrying an envelope. "Eleanor, I found out something important about—" He stopped when he saw the other people in the room. "Mark, this is Claire and Lily, and this is John. You can trust them." Mark hesitated, but the urgency of the situation spoke louder. "Eleanor, I've confirmed our suspicions. Someone is indeed passing information to Marcus, and I found out how." "How?" "Your house was bugged. They found listening devices in your kitchen and your home office." Eleanor felt the floor give way beneath her. "Bugged? But how?" "Apparently for months. All your phone conversations, all the discussions about proposals you had at home. Marcus was listening to everything." Arthur tried to get out of bed, anger giving him strength he didn't know he had. "That scoundrel! He didn't just steal our clients. He violated our privacy, our home." "There's more," Mark continued. "We investigated the records of the security company that installed your alarm system last year. They don't exist. It was a shell company." "You mean Marcus planned this for over a year?" "It seems so. He was preparing to destroy you methodically." Lily, who had followed the conversation without fully understanding but sensing the growing tension, approached Arthur again. "Mr. Arthur, the bad man who is making you suffer. My mommy taught me that sometimes we need to be brave to protect the people we love. Your mother was right, little one. But sometimes courage isn't enough. My mommy also said that when we do wrong things, we always have a chance to do right things. She said you were a good person who had gotten confused." The child's simple words struck Arthur deeply. He looked at Eleanor, then at Claire, and finally at Lily. "Lily, your mother talked about me even after what happened." "Yes, she did. She said that one day you would wake up and help many people. She said I would meet you when the time was right," Claire confirmed with a nod. "Laura used to visit the hospital when she still worked as a cleaner here. She always passed by your room and whispered that she was waiting for you to wake up so they could talk. She visited me for years, until she got too sick to come." Arthur began to cry, a mixture of regret, gratitude, and determination taking over him. "Mark, cancel any sale negotiations. We are not handing our company over to Marcus." "But Arthur, the debts." "We'll find another way, and we'll expose what he did. No one can bug a person's house and get away with it." Eleanor looked at her brother with a mixture of hope and fear. "Arthur, are you sure? If we fight him openly, he could destroy us completely." Arthur held Lily's hand and looked into the girl's eyes. "Little one, do you believe there's a way to do the right thing?" "I believe so. My mommy always believed." "Then we'll try. For your mother, for you, and for all the people Marcus has ever hurt." But none of them knew that, at that very moment, Marcus was in the hospital parking lot, listening to every word of the conversation through a device he had planted in Eleanor's purse weeks ago. 3 days after the discovery of the bugs, Arthur was discharged from the hospital, but his physical recovery contrasted sharply with the chaotic state of his company. The doctors recommended he avoid excessive stress, but it was impossible to ignore that his entire life was falling apart. Back in his house, a modest 2-story home in the Brookfield district, Arthur walked through the rooms like a stranger exploring unknown territory. 10 years had passed, and although physically everything remained the same, he felt completely out of place in what was once his home. Eleanor followed him nervously, watching her brother's every reaction as he rediscovered his own life. "You kept everything exactly as it was," Arthur commented, running his fingers over the dusty bookshelf. "I couldn't change anything. It was as if you were going to come back at any moment and everything needed to be in the right place." Arthur stopped in front of a photograph on the wall, him and Marcus in happier times, on the opening day of Morgan Halling 15 years ago. Both were smiling, arms around each other, celebrating the dream they had built together. "He was my best friend for so long," Arthur murmured. "How did things get to this point?" At that moment, the phone rang. Eleanor answered and grew progressively paler as she listened to the voice on the other end. "That was the bank," she said after hanging up. "Marcus has made a formal offer to buy our debt. If we accept, he becomes our primary creditor." "Does that mean he can call in the debt whenever he wants?" "Exactly. He's trying to corner us." Arthur sat down heavily on the sofa, feeling the weight of the lost decade. "Eleanor, I need you to tell me everything that's happened in these 10 years, every detail, no matter how painful." For the next 2 hours, Eleanor recounted a decade of solitary struggles, business decisions made in desperation, and especially the recent months of successive losses to Marcus's company. As she spoke, Arthur noticed a disturbing pattern in his former partner's actions. "He wasn't just competing with us," Arthur said thoughtfully. "He was destroying us methodically. This is personal." "But why? Was the fight between you just because of Laura?" "No, there was something more, something I still can't quite remember." That afternoon, Claire and Lily appeared at the door, carrying a basket of fruit and a shy smile. "We hope you don't mind," Claire said. "Lily insisted on coming to thank you personally for being so kind at the hospital." Arthur opened the door with a genuine smile. The girl's presence brought an inexplicable peace to his tormented soul. "Mr. Arthur, Grandma said you're in your real house now," Lily said, looking around with curiosity. "I am, little one, and you are both very welcome here. Can I see your books? Grandma taught me some letters." While Lily explored the bookshelf, Claire approached Arthur and Eleanor. "I need to tell you something important about Laura," she said in a low voice. "Something she asked me to keep secret until she found the right moment." Arthur felt his stomach clench. "What is it?" "In the last months before she passed, Laura wrote letters. Many letters. She said they were for you, but that they should only be delivered when you were ready to hear them." "Letters? Where are they?" "At home. Laura kept them in a box under the bed. Lily doesn't know they exist." Eleanor and Arthur looked at each other, both feeling they were about to discover something fundamental. "Mrs. Clare, could you get them today?" Eleanor asked. "I can, but there's something else you need to know. Laura didn't just die of cancer. She died of sadness, of regret. She carried a weight she couldn't share with anyone." "What kind of weight?" "A secret about your company. Something she discovered before she was fired, but that she could never tell because you wouldn't listen to her." Arthur closed his eyes, fragments of memories starting to reorganize. He vaguely remembered Laura trying to talk to him on her last day of work, but he was furious, convinced she had stolen money from the company. "I didn't let her explain," he murmured. "I was so sure she was guilty." At that moment, Lily ran up to them, carrying an old book. "Mr. Arthur, this book has my mommy's name inside." It was a copy of The Little Prince, with a dedication on the first page. "For Laura, who always believes in the best in people. With affection, Arthur." "No. I gave that book to your mother the first Christmas she worked with us," Arthur remembered, moved. "She said it was the first gift she had ever received from a boss." My mommy read this book to me every night, Lily said. She said that one day I would understand why some people get lost along the way, but that love always brings them back. The child's words echoed in Arthur's heart like a prophecy. 2 hours later, Claire returned with a shoebox tied with a red ribbon. Inside were dozens of handwritten letters, all addressed to Arthur, dated over the 5 years before Laura's death. She wrote one letter a month for 5 years, Claire explained, always on the same day, the anniversary of her dismissal. With trembling hands, Arthur opened the first letter. Dear Arthur, it's been a month since I left the company. I know you're angry with me, but I need you to know the truth. I found out who was stealing money from the company, but it wasn't me. It was someone very close to you, someone you trust blindly. I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. I hope one day we can talk and I can explain everything. I'll keep writing until that day comes. With love and forgiveness, Laura. Arthur looked up from the letter, his heart pounding. Eleanor, she knew who was stealing from the company. Who? Arthur continued to read the letters one after another. In each one, Laura provided more details about the irregularities she had discovered, always avoiding names but leaving clear clues. It was in letter number 24 that the truth exploded before them. Dear Arthur, I found out how the money was being diverted. It was small amounts taken through ghost suppliers. The person responsible has access to all the accounts and knows your work schedule. It's someone you love and trust completely. I know it will be hard to accept, but I have all the proof saved. One day, when you're ready, we can talk about it. In the meantime, I pray that you won't be harmed by someone so close. With eternal love, Laura. The silence that followed was broken by Eleanor's trembling voice. Arthur, do you think she was talking about Marcus? He completed. Laura had discovered that Marcus was stealing from the company. But as they processed this devastating revelation, neither of them noticed that Lily had wandered off to play in the backyard, where an unknown man was watching her through the fence, making notes in a small notebook. Marcus had decided it was time to accelerate his plans, and little Lily had become a crucial piece in his cruel game of revenge. The next morning, Arthur woke up determined to confront Marcus, but an urgent call from Mark changed all his plans. Arthur, something terrible happened. Claire was admitted to the hospital during the night with a severe respiratory crisis. She's in the ICU at St. Mark's. And Lily? She's alone. Child Protective Services has been called, but no one has shown up yet. The girl is at the hospital waiting for news about her grandmother. Arthur and Eleanor rushed to the hospital, where they found Lily sitting alone in the hallway, clutching the book The Little Prince to her chest. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was trying to be strong. Mr. Arthur, she cried when she saw him running into his arms. Grandma can't breathe right. The doctor said she's very sick. Arthur hugged her tightly, feeling the weight of a responsibility he never expected to carry. We'll take care of everything, little one. Your grandma is strong. But what if she goes away like Mommy did? I'll be all alone in the world. The child's innocent question broke Arthur's heart. He looked at Eleanor, who was also clearly moved by the situation. Lily, while your grandma recovers, you can stay with us, Arthur said without hesitation. Arthur, Eleanor began, worried about the legal implications. No, Eleanor. This child is not going to a shelter, not after everything her family has done for me. Dr. Stevens approached them with a grave expression. Mr. Arthur, I need to talk to you about Mrs. Clare's condition. They moved away from Lily, who was playing with John at the end of the hallway. The situation is critical, the doctor explained. She has advanced chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. We've managed to stabilize her for now, but we don't know how much time she has. It could be weeks, it could be months, and she's going to need constant medical care. Arthur felt the world spin around him. In a few days, he had awakened from a 10-year coma, discovered his company was failing, that his best friend was his worst enemy, And now he was becoming responsible for an orphaned child. "Doctor, how much would proper treatment for her cost?" "With the necessary medications and medical follow-up, about $8,000 a month." It was money Arthur didn't have. His personal account had been frozen due to debts, and the company was on the brink of bankruptcy. That afternoon, while Lily slept on his sofa, exhausted from the emotional stress, Arthur and Eleanor talked about the impossible situation they were in. "Arthur, I admire your generosity, but we can't afford to take care of a child right now. Our financial situation is chaotic." "Eleanor, this girl lost her mother 6 months ago, and now she might lose her grandmother. She has no one else in the world. What about Child Protective Services? They're equipped to handle these situations. You want to put Laura's daughter in a shelter after everything we found in the letters?" Eleanor fell silent. The guilt she had carried for years weighed on her shoulders like a stone. At that moment, the phone rang. It was Marcus. "Arthur, I heard you've taken on an interesting responsibility, an orphan child." "How did you know?" "Oakland is a small town, remember? I wanted to make a proposal." "I'm not interested in anything you have to offer. Not even if I can help with the grandmother's medical costs?" Arthur felt his blood run cold. "What do you want in return?" "A conversation. Just that. Meet with me tomorrow, and I'll pay for all of Mrs. Clare's treatment costs. And if I refuse, then you'll watch a 4-year-old child become a complete orphan while you can't even pay your own bills." The call ended, leaving Arthur shaking with anger and desperation. "He knows about Claire," Arthur said to Eleanor. "He's using Lily's situation to blackmail me." "Arthur, you can't trust him. But what if it's the only way to save Claire?" That night, while Lily slept in the guest room, Arthur continued to read Laura's letters. In letter number 36, he found information that changed everything. "Dear Arthur, I've managed to gather all the proof of what I discovered. There are documents, bank statements and recordings of conversations that prove the embezzlement. I've kept everything in a safe place, waiting for the day you were ready for the truth. If something happens to me, I've asked my mother to keep this evidence. It's in a safety deposit box at the Bank of America downtown branch. The key is hidden inside the Little Prince book you gave me. I hope one day you can use this information to protect the company you love so much. With love and hope, Laura." Arthur ran to the living room where Lily's book was on the table. Carefully, he examined each page until he found a small slit in the middle of the book where a tiny key was hidden. "Eleanor, Eleanor, wake up!" His sister came downstairs, startled. "What happened?" "Laura left evidence, proof of everything Marcus did. It's in a safe at the bank. Evidence of what exactly? Of the embezzlement, of the scams, everything." The next morning, they went to the bank with Lily, who still didn't know about the discovery. When they opened the safe deposit box, they found a folder full of documents that revealed 5 years of embezzlement by Marcus. "My God," Eleanor whispered, flipping through the papers. "He stole over $500,000 over the years." "And look at these recordings," Arthur said, finding a pen drive. Laura recorded his phone conversations discussing the diversions. Who was he talking to? Arthur plugged the pen drive into a bank computer and opened the audio files. Marcus's voice was clear on the recordings, discussing strategies to hide the stolen money and blame other employees. But it was on the last recording that they heard something that left them in shock. "Laura is getting suspicious. I'm going to have to get rid of her before she finds out everything. And if Arthur finds out the truth, how are you going to do that? I'm going to plant false evidence in her locker, make it look like she's stealing. Arthur will fire her on the spot, and our story will be safe. And if she tries to defend herself, who's going to believe the word of a cleaning lady against mine?" Arthur turned off the audio, his hands shaking with anger. He framed Laura. He planted false evidence to incriminate her. Arthur, with this evidence, we can not only save the company, but also sue Marcus criminally. Lily, who had watched everything without fully understanding, asked, "Did you find something important of my mommy's?" "We did, little one. Your mother was a very brave woman who saved important information to help us. She always said the truth would come out one day." At that moment, Arthur's cell phone rang. It was Marcus again. "So, Arthur, decided to accept my proposal. I'll meet you, but it will be on my terms." "Perfect. I'll expect you today at 5 in the afternoon at the Horizon Logistics office." "And Arthur." "What?" "Bring the girl. I have something special to show her." The call ended, and Arthur understood that Marcus had prepared a final trap. But now, for the first time in 10 years, he had the weapons he needed to fight back. At 5 in the afternoon, Arthur parked in front of the mirrored building that housed Horizon Logistics. The contrast with his own company was painful. While his offices were modest and functional, Marcus had built a luxurious empire with the money he had stolen over the years. Lily held Arthur's hand tightly, sensing the tension in the air. She had insisted on accompanying him after he explained they were going to talk to someone about her mother. "Mr. Arthur, this building is very big," she commented, looking up impressed. "It is, little one, but remember, bigger things aren't always the best." Eleanor had stayed at the hospital handling the arrangements for Claire's treatment, but not before making Arthur promise he wouldn't do anything reckless. In the elevator, Arthur mentally reviewed his strategy. He had Laura's evidence in a folder, but he knew Marcus had also prepared for this meeting. The question was, what was his ex-partner planning? The reception at Horizon Logistics was luxurious, decorated with marble and imported furniture. The receptionist, a young, well-dressed woman, greeted them with a professional smile. "Mr. Arthur Morgan, Mr. Thorne is waiting for you. Please, follow me." They were led down a long corridor to a conference room with a panoramic view of Oakland. Marcus awaited them, seated at the head of a mahogany table, wearing an expensive suit and displaying a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Arthur, my old friend, what a joy to see you back on your feet." Marcus stood to greet him, but Arthur kept his distance, his hands protectively on Lily. "Marcus, and this must be the famous Lily, daughter of the dear Laura." The way Marcus pronounced Laura's name made Arthur grind his teeth. There was thinly veiled contempt in his voice. "Hi, sir," Lily said shyly, hiding partially behind Arthur. "What a polite girl. Please sit. We have much to discuss." Arthur sat across from Marcus, keeping Lily by his side. The room was silent, except for the almost imperceptible hum of the air conditioning. "Before we begin," Marcus said, "I'd like you to know that I've already arranged for the full payment of Mrs. Claire's treatment. $20,000 have been deposited directly into the hospital's account. In exchange for what? In exchange for an honest conversation between old friends. That's all." Arthur knew it was a lie, but the gesture had secured Claire's treatment, and that's what mattered at the moment. "Lily," Marcus said, turning his attention to the girl, "your mother was a very observant woman. She knew things she perhaps shouldn't have." "My mommy was good," Lily replied, her voice small but firm. "Of course she was. But sometimes good people make bad choices, like trying to blackmail other people with information they obtained illegally." Arthur stood up abruptly. "Enough, Marcus. Let's get straight to the point. What do you want?" "I want you to sign the transfer papers for Morgan hauling to me, voluntarily." "And if I refuse?" Marcus smiled and pressed a button on his desk. The room's doors opened, and 2 large men entered, positioning themselves near the exit. "Then you won't be leaving here until you change your mind." Lily clung to Arthur's arm, frightened by the sudden change in the atmosphere. "Mr. Arthur, I want to go home." "Calm down, little one. Everything will be fine." "Actually," Marcus continued, "there's something you need to know. Arthur, do you really believe that accident 10 years ago was just a coincidence?" Arthur's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "That night you were on your way to confront me about the discrepancies Laura had discovered. Remember?" Fragments of memories began to surface in Arthur's mind. He remembered being furious, driving in the heavy rain, his mind consumed by the betrayal of his best friend. "You were so worked up, so blinded by anger. It was so easy to provoke that accident. You caused the accident. I just accelerated an inevitable process. You driving in that emotional state, in that rain. It was a matter of time." Arthur felt a fury build in his chest, a rage he hadn't felt in 10 years. "You left me in a coma for 10 years because I found out you were stealing. I saved our friendship, Arthur. If you had confronted me that night, our partnership would have ended much more uglily." Lily watched the conversation escalate, not fully understanding what was happening, but realizing that the man in front of them was hurting Arthur with his words. "Bad mister," she said suddenly, looking directly at Marcus. "You made my mommy cry." Marcus laughed. "Your mother cried because she discovered truths she couldn't bear, like the truth that Arthur was never the honest man she thought he was." "That's not true!" Lily shouted, surprising everyone with her vehemence. "My mommy always said Mr. Arthur was good, but that he was confused. Your mother was a sentimental fool." At that moment, something inside Arthur snapped. He stood up and walked toward Marcus, but was intercepted by the two men. "I wouldn't recommend doing anything rash," Marcus said calmly, "especially with a child present." "What do you want, Marcus? Stop the games and just say it." "I want you to sign the company transfer. I want you to publicly admit that you were a terrible businessman who brought your family to ruin. And I want you to disappear from Oakland forever. And in return, I won't reveal some interesting secrets about Laura's past that could tarnish the memory her little daughter has of her." Lily looked at Arthur, confused. "What secrets?" Arthur realized Marcus was bluffing, trying to use Lily's innocence against him, but he had a card up his sleeve that his ex-partner wasn't expecting. "Marcus, before I make any decision, there's something you need to see." Arthur opened the folder he had brought and spread some of the documents on the table. They were bank statements showing the diversions of money, all with Marcus's signature. Marcus's confident smile faltered slightly. "Where did you get this?" "Laura was smarter than you thought. She documented everything, Marcus. Every cent you stole, every lie you told, every life you destroyed." "This doesn't prove anything. These could be forged documents." Arthur took out his phone and played one of the audio recordings. Marcus's voice echoed through the room, openly discussing the diversions and how to frame Laura. This time, Marcus's face turned visibly pale. "Lily," Arthur said, looking at the girl, "your mother left this evidence so that one day the truth would be known. She knew you would need this proof to clear her name. She recorded this to protect me? To protect the truth, little one. To protect all the people this man has hurt." Marcus recovered quickly, but his confidence had been shaken. "Even if this evidence is real, it changes nothing. You still don't have the money to save the company, and I still have the power to destroy your lives." "Perhaps," Arthur said, "but now I have something you didn't expect, the truth. And the truth has a funny way of getting out." At that moment, Marcus's cell phone rang. He answered with irritation, but his expression changed drastically as he listened to the person on the other end. "What? What do you mean it leaked? When?" Arthur smiled. Eleanor had fulfilled her part of the plan, delivering copies of the evidence to 3 local journalists while they were in that meeting. "It seems our conversation is over," Arthur said, standing up and taking Lily by the hand. "This isn't over," Marcus snarled, but his voice had lost all its authority. "No, it's not," Arthur agreed. "It's going to get much worse for you." As they left the building, Lily looked at Arthur with admiration. "Mr. Arthur, you were very brave in there." "No, little one, your mother was brave. We just finished the job she started." But as they drove back home, neither of them noticed the car following them at a safe distance, nor did they imagine that Marcus had prepared one last, desperate blow of revenge. The next morning, Arthur woke to an urgent call from Mark. The lawyer's voice was strained, filled with an anxiety he had never shown before. "Arthur, you need to come to my office immediately. Something terrible happened during the night." "What was it?" "I can't talk over the phone. Bring Lily with you and Arthur. Be very careful on the street." The call ended, leaving Arthur with a dark premonition. He looked at Lily, who was eating breakfast in the kitchen, completely oblivious to the storms brewing around her. "Little one, we're going to visit Mr. Mark today. Is he your friend?" "He is, and your mother's friend too." On the way to the city centre, Arthur noticed a dark car that seemed to have been following them for several blocks. He changed his route twice, and the vehicle stayed behind them. His heart began to beat faster. "Lily, I want you to play a little game with me. When we get to Mr. Mark's building, I want you to run inside really fast. Like it's a race. Can you do that?" "I can. I run very fast." "Great. And if a stranger tries to talk to you, scream really loud, okay?" Lily nodded, sensing something serious was happening, even without fully understanding. At Mark's office, they found the lawyer visibly shaken. Papers were scattered all over his desk, and he looked like he hadn't slept. "Mark, what happened?" "My office was broken into last night. They took all the documents related to the Morgan Hauling case." Arthur felt his stomach drop. "The evidence Laura left?" "Luckily, no. I had made copies and stored them elsewhere, but they took everything else. Contracts, correspondence, financial records." "Was it Marcus?" "There's no way to prove it, but who else would be interested? And there's something worse." Mark walked to the window and closed the blinds before continuing. "I received an anonymous call this morning. They said if we continue with the case's exposure, something very bad will happen to the girl." Lily, who was playing in the corner of the office with some toys Mark kept for clients with children, looked up when she heard her name. "Are you talking about me?" "No, little one. Keep playing," Arthur said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Arthur," Mark whispered, "I think you should consider taking Lily out of the city for a few days." "I'm not running from him. Not now that we finally have the proof, but what if he hurts the child to pressure you?" At that moment, the office phone rang. Mark answered hesitantly. "Mark Andrade's office." His expression darkened as he listened to the voice on the other end. "It's for you," he said, handing the phone to Arthur. "It's him." "Arthur, I hope you had a peaceful night," said Marcus's voice, laced with false courtesy. "What do you want?" "I want you to know I greatly admired your courage yesterday. It really impressed me." "Get to the point." "The point is, you have something that belongs to me, and I have something you value." "What are you talking about?" "The evidence your dear Laura gathered is based on stolen documents from my company. That makes them legally inadmissible." "That's a lie." "Perhaps. But while that's being debated in court, a lot can happen, especially to vulnerable people. Like a 4-year-old child without proper legal protection." Arthur clenched his fist tightly. "If you touch a single hair on Lily's head." "Me? I would never harm a child, but accidents happen, Arthur, especially with people who live in dangerous places." "What dangerous places?" "The hospital, where the girl's grandmother is, for example. Places with a lot of electrical equipment, dangerous medications. It would be a shame if something went wrong." The veiled threat made Arthur's blood boil. "You're a monster." "I'm a businessman protecting my interests. I have a final proposal for you." "I'm listening." "You drop all charges, sign the company transfer, and in return, I guarantee the girl and her grandmother will be safe. You can even keep custody of Lily if you want. And if I refuse, then you'll find out just how creative I can be when I'm crossed." The call ended, leaving Arthur trembling with rage and fear. "What did he say?" Mark asked. "He threatened Lily and Claire." At that moment, Lily approached them. "Mr. Arthur, why are you sad?" Arthur knelt to her level, trying to find words that wouldn't scare her more than she already was. "Lily, do you remember when your mom used to tell stories about bad people who sometimes try to scare good people?" "I remember, but she always said the good people win in the end. Your mother was right, but sometimes it takes a little while. And what do we do in the meantime?" The child's innocent question struck Arthur deeply. What would they do? How could they protect a defenseless girl against someone as unscrupulous as Marcus? At that moment, Arthur's cell phone rang. It was Eleanor calling from the hospital. "Arthur, where are you? Something strange happened here." "What kind of strange thing?" "A man showed up claiming to be from Child Protective Services, asking for information about Lily. But when I asked for identification, he left." "Eleanor, get out of the hospital right now. Take Claire to another hospital." "Arthur, she can't be moved. She's too weak." "Then hire private security. Don't let any strangers near her room." After hanging up, Arthur turned to Mark with renewed determination. "Mark, I want you to formally report Marcus. Embezzlement, threats, breaking and entering, everything." But he could retaliate. "He's already retaliating. At least now we'll do this the right way. And if he follows through on his threats, then we'll be ready." Arthur picked up his phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in years. "Chief Roberts, it's Arthur Morgan. I know it's been a while, but I need an urgent favor." Robert Santos had been Arthur's college friend and now held a high-ranking position in the Oakland Police Department. "Arthur, I heard you woke up. How are you feeling?" "It's complicated, Robert. I need police protection for a child." "What kind of situation?" "Someone is making threats against a 4-year-old girl to pressure me in an embezzlement case." "This is serious. Can you come down here to file a report? We're on our way." At the station, while Arthur gave his statement, Lily played with some toys the officers had improvised for her. The child's innocence contrasted painfully with the gravity of the situation. "Mr. Arthur," she said when he finished talking to the chief, "are we going to see Grandma today?" "We are, little one, and we're going to make sure she's well protected, like the heroes in the stories." Exactly like the heroes in the stories. But when they left the station, they found Arthur's car tire slashed and a note stuck to the windshield. "Last chance. You have 24 hours. Lily looked at the flat tire and then at Arthur. "Did the bad man do this?" "Probably. But you're not going to give up, are you?" Arthur looked into the determined eyes of that extraordinary girl and felt a courage he hadn't experienced in 10 years. "No, little one, I'm not giving up. Your mother wouldn't have given up, and neither will I. So we're going to win. We're going to win." But as they waited for the tow truck to change the tire, Arthur didn't know that Marcus had already set in motion a plan that would test all his convictions and force him to make the most difficult decision of his life. The dawn brought a call that changed everything. Arthur woke with a start to the insistent ringing of the phone, and when he saw St. Mark's Hospital on the caller ID, his heart leaped. "Mr. Morgan, this is John from the hospital. You need to come urgently. It's about Mrs. Claire." "What happened?" "She had a cardiac arrest during the night. We managed to revive her, but the situation is very serious." Arthur looked at Lily, who was sleeping peacefully on the living room sofa, where she had spent the night after insisting on staying close to him. How could he tell a 4-year-old that her last remaining family member was on the verge of leaving? "John, how long?" "The doctors don't want to commit, but maybe a few hours. We're on our way." Arthur gently woke Lily, trying to hide the desperation in his voice. "Little one, we need to go see your grandma." "Did she get better?" Lily asked, rubbing her sleepy eyes. She really wants to see you." On the way to the hospital, Lily chattered about a dream she'd had about her mother, oblivious to the silent tears streaming down Arthur's face. "I dreamed that Mommy said I'm strong like she was, and that even when people go away, their love stays forever inside here," she said, touching her own chest. At the hospital, they found Claire conscious but visibly weak. Her face was pale, and her breathing was labored even with the help of the machines. "My little granddaughter," she murmured as Lily approached the bed. "Hi, Grandma. I came to tell you about my dream." Lily climbed onto the chair beside the bed and held her grandmother's fragile hand, recounting the dream about Laura again. Claire listened with a soft smile, her eyes shining with deep love. "Grandma has something very important to tell you," Claire said with effort. "What is it?" "Your mother asked me to take care of you until I found a special family to love you, a family she chose personally." Lily looked confused. "But you're my family." "I am, my dear, but Grandma is going to be away for a little while, just like your mommy was." "Are you going to the same place as Mommy?" "I am, and I'm going to tell her how you've grown up strong and brave." Arthur watched the conversation with a broken heart, understanding that Claire was saying goodbye. "Mr. Arthur," Claire called, extending her hand to him. "Could you come closer?" He sat on the other side of the bed. "Laura told me about you long before the accident. She saw goodness in your heart, even when you couldn't see it. Mrs. Claire, I made so many mistakes, and now you have a chance to fix them. Lily needs a father, and you need a daughter to teach you what true love is. But I don't know if I can be a good father. I have no experience, no financial stability. You have something more important. You have love to give, and Lily has love to receive." At that moment, Lily turned to Arthur. "Mr. Arthur, if Grandma goes to find my mommy, can you take care of me?" The child's simple question echoed in the silent room. Arthur looked at this extraordinary girl who had changed his life in a few short weeks and understood there was no choice to be made. The choice had already been made the moment she touched his hand in the hospital. "Of course I can, little one. If you want to stay with me, I do. A lot." Claire smiled, an expression of peace washing over her face. "Then my work here is done." 2 hours later, Claire Santos passed away quietly, with Lily holding one of her hands and Arthur holding the other. The girl didn't cry immediately. Instead, she watched her grandmother's serene face and whispered, "Now you're with Mommy again. Right, Grandma?" Adieu. It was only when they left the room that Lily finally cried, held tightly in Arthur's arms, who also couldn't hold back his tears. "Mr. Arthur, now I have no one," she sobbed. "Yes, you do, little one. You have me, you have Eleanor, and you have everyone who has already learned to love you." That afternoon, while arranging Claire's funeral, Arthur received an unexpected call from Mark. "Arthur, I have news about the Marcus case." "Good or bad news?" "Good. Very good. The evidence Laura collected has been accepted by the court. And that's not all. We managed to trace the bank accounts where he hid the stolen money." "How much did they recover?" "Almost $400,000. It's enough to pay off the company's debts and still have a significant amount left over." Arthur felt immense relief, but his joy was tempered by the pain of his recent loss. "And Marcus? He's been indicted for embezzlement, document forgery, and making threats. Horizon Logistics is under investigation, and several clients are already canceling their contracts with him." "Justice is served," Arthur murmured. "There's more. The judge has ruled that Lily can remain in your temporary custody while the adoption proceedings are processed." Adoption. Claire left a letter with the notary, naming you as Lily's preferred guardian. Apparently, Laura had expressed this wish to her mother. That night, Arthur tucked Lily into the bed in the guest room, which had been quickly transformed into a child's room with Eleanor's help. "Mr. Arthur," Lily said before falling asleep, "Grandma said you were going to be my heart daddy. Is that true? If you want me to be, I do. But can I still remember my mommy and my grandma?" "Of course you can. They will always be part of our family, even if they're not here." "And will you teach me to drive when I grow up?" Arthur laughed, the first genuine laugh he'd had in days. "I'll teach you anything you want to learn." "And will you take me to work at the truck company?" "If you want to see it." Lily smiled and closed her eyes, hugging the teddy bear Eleanor had bought for her. 2 weeks later, Claire's funeral was simple but moving. Several people who had known the family attended, including hospital staff who had grown fond of the pair. During the ceremony, Lily stayed by Arthur's side, holding his hand firmly. When it was time to say goodbye, she approached the casket and whispered, "Grandma, I found my new family just like you promised, and Mr. Arthur is as good as Mommy said he was." After the ceremony, Arthur took Lily to see the headquarters of Morgan Hauling, which was being restructured with the recovered money. The girl was fascinated by the big trucks and asked dozens of questions about how everything worked. "One day this company will be yours too," Arthur said, picking her up so she could get a better view of the operations area. "Mine? Ours, our families." It was at that moment that Marcus appeared unexpectedly at the company entrance, escorted by 2 court officers. He was in handcuffs, being taken into custody. When he saw Arthur and Lily, he stopped and stared at them with a mixture of anger and defeat. "I hope you're satisfied," he said bitterly. "We are at peace," Arthur replied simply. Lily looked at Marcus with curiosity, not fear. "Mister, were you friends with my heart daddy?" The innocent question visibly shook Marcus. "I was. Once. My mommy always said that bad people can become good people if they really want to. Do you want to become a good person?" Marcus was silent for a long moment, looking at this child who offered forgiveness without even fully understanding his crimes. "It might be too late for that, little one." "It's never too late," Lily said with conviction. "My mommy taught me that." As Marcus was led away by the officers, Arthur understood that his journey of redemption was just beginning, and that Lily would be not only his daughter, but also his teacher on the true meaning of forgiveness. 3 months after officially becoming Lily's guardian, Arthur discovered that raising a child was simultaneously the most rewarding and most challenging thing he had ever experienced. The girl had adapted remarkably well to her new life, but there were moments when the absence of her mother and grandmother manifested in unexpected ways. That Saturday morning, Arthur found Lily sitting on the kitchen floor, surrounded by all the spice jars she could reach, trying to mix ingredients in a bowl. "Lily, what are you doing, little one?" "Trying to make the cornbread that Grandma used to make," she answered, focused on her task. "But I don't remember all the ingredients." Arthur knelt beside her, observing the loving mess spread across the floor. There was flour everywhere, broken eggs, and a strange mixture that definitely did not look like cake batter. "Why didn't you ask me for help?" "Because I wanted to do it by myself, as a birthday present for you." Arthur felt his heart tighten. His birthday was the next day, a date he hadn't even mentioned to Lily. "How did you know it's my birthday tomorrow?" "Aunt Eleanor told me. She said you used to get sad on your birthdays because you didn't have a family to celebrate with you." The girl's simple observation hit him deeply. It was true. In the last years before the accident, he had spent his birthdays alone, immersed in work to avoid thinking about his loneliness. "And you wanted to give me a present?" "I wanted to give you the cake Grandma made when people were sad. She said it had a special ingredient that cured sadness." "What ingredient?" "Love," Lily answered, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Arthur hugged her, flour mixture and all, feeling an intense emotion well up in his chest. "How about we make this cake together? You can teach me Grandma's recipe. Do you know how to cook? I'm learning a lot of new things since you came into my life." They spent the whole morning in the kitchen, Lily dictating the jumbled instructions she remembered, while Arthur tried to turn those fragmented memories into something edible. The final result was a lopsided cake burnt on the edges, but which smelled surprisingly good. "It's perfect," Lily declared, clapping her hands. "It's burnt, little one. But it was made with love, just like Grandma used to do." That afternoon, while Lily played in the yard, Eleanor stopped by for a visit. She had become a constant presence in their lives, helping Arthur navigate the challenges of being a sudden single father. "How are you two adapting?" she asked, watching Lily through the window. "Every day is a new discovery. Yesterday she asked if angels wear pajamas to sleep." Eleanor laughed. "And what did you answer?" "That they probably wear pajamas with clouds on them." "You're changing, Arthur, in a good way. Lily is teaching me to see the world through a child's eyes. It's liberating." "And the nightmares, do you still have them?" Arthur had confessed to Eleanor that he sometimes woke up in the middle of the night, tormented by nightmares about the accident and the lost years. But since Lily arrived, the bad dreams had become less frequent, fewer. "And when I wake up scared, I sometimes find her in my room because she says she can feel when I'm sad. She's very sensitive, like her mother was." At that moment, Lily ran into the house holding something in her hands. "Daddy Arthur, I found something." She had started calling him Daddy naturally, without anyone suggesting it. The first time it happened, Arthur had cried. "What did you find?" It was a small, heart-shaped stone. "I found it buried near the tree. Grandma said that when we find special-shaped stones, it's because someone we love is sending a gift from heaven. It's a very beautiful stone. I want you to keep it, so when you get sad, you can look at it and remember that Mommy and Grandma like you too." Arthur accepted the stone, knowing he would keep it forever. That night, after Lily fell asleep, he was organizing some documents when he found a folder he didn't remember seeing before. Inside was a letter in his own handwriting, dated just days before the accident. As he read, the memories of those last days before the coma began to reorganize with painful clarity. "To whoever finds this letter, if something happens to me, I want you to know that I have discovered serious irregularities in my company. My partner, Marcus Thorne, is embezzling money through ghost suppliers. The employee Laura Santos tried to warn me about this, but I didn't believe her at first. Now I'm sure she was right. If something happens to me before I can act, please protect Laura. She is an honest person who deserves justice." Arthur was in shock. He had written that letter the night before the accident, when he finally understood that Laura was trying to save him from Marcus. He had planned to confront his partner the next day, but the accident happened first. For all those years, a part of his subconscious mind knew the truth, even as his body lay unconscious. The next day, his birthday began with Lily jumping on his bed at 6 in the morning. "Happy birthday, Daddy." "Good morning, little one. I have a surprise for you." She led him to the kitchen, where she had prepared a breakfast table. Eleanor was there, smiling, clearly an accomplice in the surprise. "Aunt Eleanor helped me, but the idea was mine," Lily explained proudly. The table was decorated with flowers from the yard, and in the center was the lopsided cake they had made the day before, with makeshift candles made of toothpicks. "Now you make a wish and blow out the candles," Lily instructed. Arthur looked at this extraordinary child, at his sister, who had taken care of everything for so many years, and at the house that had become a true home for the first time in his life. He closed his eyes and made his wish, that he could be a father worthy of the trust Lily placed in him. When he blew out the makeshift candles, Lily clapped her hands and shouted, "Now your wish will come true." How do you know? Because when we make wishes for people we love, they always come true. After breakfast, Lily gave him her present, a framed drawing of the two of them together, with the caption, "My Heart Family," written in uneven letters. "Lily, this is the most beautiful gift I've ever received in my life." "Really?" "Really." That afternoon, as they walked in the park, Lily ran ahead playing with other children when a woman approached Arthur. "Excuse me, are you Lily's father?" "I am." "Why?" "I'm a social worker from Child Protective Services. I'd like to talk to you about the girl's custody situation." Arthur felt his stomach sink. "Is there a problem?" "On the contrary, the adoption process has been approved. If you'd like, you can pick up the documents on Monday. Lily will officially be your daughter." The news left Arthur speechless. Lily, who had noticed the serious conversation, came running over. "Daddy, why are you crying? These are happy tears, little one." "Why?" "Because now we are officially a family." Lily hugged him tightly. "We always were, Daddy. It's just that now the papers know it too." That night, watching Lily sleep peacefully in her bed, Arthur understood that his journey back to life hadn't begun when he woke from the coma. It had begun the moment a 4-year-old girl decided he deserved a second chance at happiness. 6 months after Lily's official adoption, Arthur's life had found a rhythm he never imagined possible. Morgan Halling had not only recovered, but was thriving under his new ethical and transparent management. Lily, now 5, had become an integral part of his routine, accompanying him to the office in the afternoons and winning over all the employees with her captivating personality. That Monday morning, however, something unexpected happened. Arthur was reviewing contracts when his secretary, Mrs. Marlene, a 55-year-old woman who had worked at the company from the beginning, knocked on the door with a worried expression. "Mr. Morgan, there's a young woman here who says she's Laura's sister. She wants to talk about Lily." Arthur felt his blood run cold. Laura's sister? Claire never mentioned another daughter. She says she lived in New York and only just found out about the situation. Send her in. The woman who entered the office was about 30, with dark hair and a vague resemblance to Laura. She wore expensive clothes and carried a designer handbag, contrasting with the simplicity Arthur remembered of the Santos family. "Mr. Morgan, I'm Patricia Santos, Laura's younger sister. A pleasure. Please, sit down. How can I help you?" "I've come to get my niece." The words hit Arthur like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean?" "Lily is my only living family. I have a legal right to her." "Patricia, with all due respect, Lily has already been legally adopted by me. The process was approved by the judiciary." "Based on what circumstances? A child was handed over to a stranger when there was biological family available." Arthur tried to remain calm. "Where were you when Claire and Lily needed help, when they were living by collecting cans to survive?" "I was living in New York, building my professional life. I didn't know the difficulties they were facing." "And how did you find out now?" Patricia hesitated slightly. "An acquaintance from Oakland told me about the situation, about what happened to my mother and about the adoption." "And what acquaintance?" "Does it matter? What matters is that Lily belongs to my family." At that moment, Lily ran into the office as she did every day after school. She stopped when she saw the stranger hiding behind Arthur's chair. "Daddy, who is this lady?" Patricia stood up, trying to approach. "Lily, I'm your Aunt Patricia, your mother's sister." Lily looked at her with suspicion. "My mommy never talked about you." "Because it had been a long time since we'd spoken, dear. But now I've come to take you to live with me." "I don't want to go. I want to stay with my daddy." Arthur placed a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. "Patricia, I think it's better if we discuss this in private, without the child present." "There's nothing to discuss. I've consulted a lawyer, and he assured me I have rights to Lily. What lawyer? Dr. Rodrigo Mendez. The name made Arthur frown. He knew Rodrigo Mendez. He was a lawyer known for taking dubious cases in exchange for high fees. Patricia, may I ask what your profession is? I'm a businesswoman. I own a boutique in New York. And you're willing to completely change your life to care for a 5-year-old child. Of course, Lily is family. But there was something in the too quick response, in the way she avoided looking directly at Lily, that made Arthur suspicious. After Patricia left, promising to return with legal documentation, Arthur immediately called Mark. Mark, I need you to investigate someone urgently. Patricia Santos, supposedly Laura's sister. Do you suspect something? A lot of things, starting with the fact that she just showed up now, wearing expensive clothes, talking about legal rights. I'll look into it. But Arthur, if she really is Laura's sister and can prove kinship, I know, but something isn't right. That night, Lily was visibly upset. During dinner, she barely touched her food, frequently looking at the door, as if expecting Patricia to appear at any moment. Daddy, is that lady really going to take me away? No one is going to take you anywhere you don't want to go. But what if it's mandatory? Like when I had to leave Aunt Creusa's house. Lily, that was different. Aunt Creusa hurt you. You're safe with me. But the lady said she has rights. Arthur knelt in front of her chair. Little one, do you remember your mother talking about a sister? No. My mommy only talked about Grandma and me, and sometimes about you. And do you feel safe with me? I do. You're my real daddy now. Then we'll fight to stay together. The next morning, Mark called with disturbing information. Arthur, I got information on Patricia Santos. She's not a businesswoman. She works as a receptionist in New York and has considerable debt. So why does she want Lily? I'm still investigating, but I discovered something interesting. She was approached by someone 2 weeks ago, someone who paid off her debts and hired the lawyer for her. Who? I haven't been able to confirm yet, but all leads point to one name. Marcus, possibly. He was released from pre-trial detention last week, pending trial. Arthur felt a familiar anger rise in his chest. He's using a desperate woman to try to take Lily from me. It seems so, but proving it is another story. That afternoon, Patricia returned to the office, this time accompanied by Dr. Rodrigo Mendez, a portly 50-year-old man known for his aggression in court. Mr. Morgan, the lawyer said, my client has an indisputable legal right to the minor, Lily Santos. Based on what? Blood relation. The adoption was irregular because there was no adequate search for biological relatives. The process followed all legal procedures. That's debatable. We are filing a lawsuit to annul the adoption. Arthur looked at Patricia, who avoided his gaze. Patricia, may I ask a personal question? You may. What was Laura's middle name? She hesitated. Maria. And your mother's name? Claire. And your father? Another hesitation. Joseph. Arthur knew she was lying. Lily had told him her grandfather's name was Anthony, not Joseph. Dr. Mendez, I'll be direct. Who is financing this lawsuit? That is confidential. It's Marcus Thorne, isn't it? The silence that followed was telling. I don't know what you're talking about, Patricia said, but her voice trembled. Patricia, are you sure you want to do this? Take a happy, adapted child from her family to hand her over to someone who is using you to get revenge on me? Lily is my niece. I have the right. You're not even Laura's sister, are you? Whoa. The direct accusation made Patricia turn pale. Dr. Mendez stood up abruptly. That is a serious accusation. I have all the necessary documentation. Documentation that can be forged, Arthur replied, but DNA doesn't lie. At that moment, Lily entered the office again, stopping when she saw the same people from the previous day. Daddy, It's the lady from yesterday again. Lily approached Arthur, but this time she looked directly at Patricia. Miss, do you know the name of the bird my mommy liked the most? Well, and the song she sang to put me to sleep? Lily, it's been a long time. And do you know where she kept the letters she wrote? Patricia looked desperately at Dr. Mendez, who realized they were losing ground. This proves nothing. A child can forget details. I haven't forgotten anything about my mother, Lily said firmly, and she never talked about you. Never. At that moment, Arthur understood that his daughter had sensed the truth even before he did, and that once again Lily would be the key to resolving a situation that threatened to destroy their family. The final revelation came 3 days later, when Mark managed to piece together the puzzle Marcus had orchestrated. Arthur was in his office, reviewing strategies to contest the lawsuit, when his lawyer arrived with a folder full of evidence that would change everything. Arthur, I've uncovered the whole truth about Patricia Santos, Mark said, spreading documents on the table. Not only is she not Laura's sister, but she has a criminal record in New York. What kind of record? Fraud. She specializes in posing as a relative of deceased people to claim inheritances or life insurance. Arthur sat heavily in his chair. And Marcus found her? More than that, he hired her. We have records of bank transfers from his personal account to hers, totaling $50,000. $50,000 to try to take Lily from me. The plan was more elaborate than we thought. If she got custody of Lily, she had orders to take the girl to New York and then disappear. Marcus would pay another $50,000 when that happened. The coldness of the plan made Arthur sick. He really planned to make Lily disappear. It seems so. And there's more. We managed to record a conversation between Patricia and Marcus. She started having doubts about the plan after meeting Lily in person. Mark played an audio file on his phone. Patricia's voice sounded nervous. Marcus, I can't do this. The girl is happy with this man. She truly loves him. You were paid to do a job. If you can't deliver, you'll have to return the money plus interest. But she's just an innocent child. She's a tool, and you're going to use that tool or you're going to regret it. Is this enough evidence to arrest him again? Arthur asked. More than enough. Conspiracy, document forgery, attempted kidnapping, coercion. He's going to be in prison for a long time this time. At that moment, the office door opened and Lily ran in, as she always did after school, but this time she wasn't alone. Behind her was Patricia, with a completely different expression than she had shown in previous encounters. Daddy, the lady wanted to talk to me outside, but I said I only talk in front of you. Arthur stood up, immediately on alert, but Patricia raised her hands in a peaceful gesture. Mr. Morgan, I came to apologize. To both of you. Patricia, I don't think this is appropriate. Please, let me explain. Lily, can you sit here next to your dad? Lily settled into the chair next to Arthur, holding his hand. Lily, I lied to you and your dad. I'm not your mother's sister. I knew it, Lily said simply. You don't have the sad eyes my mommy had when she talked about family. The child's innocent but profound observation clearly touched Patricia. You're very smart, and you're very lucky to have a father who loves you so much. I know. Why did you lie? Patricia looked at Arthur before answering. Because a bad man paid me to lie. He wanted to take you away from your father. Why didn't you do it? Because when I met you, I realized you're happy here, and no one deserves to have their happiness taken away for revenge. Arthur watched the conversation between the woman and his daughter, realizing that Patricia was genuinely remorseful. What do you plan to do now? He asked. I'm going to the police to tell them everything I know about Marcus's plan, and I'm going to return the money he gave me. Patricia, You don't have to expose yourself like this. Yes, I do. For a long time, I made money by lying and deceiving people. When I saw how much Lily loves you and how you care for her, I understood that some things are more important than money. Lily stood up and approached Patricia. Miss, you're not bad. You were just confused. How do you know? Because bad people don't get sad when they do wrong things. You're sad. Patricia knelt to Lily's level. Do you forgive me for lying? I forgive you. My mommy always said that forgiving is good for the person who forgives, not just the person who is forgiven. 2 hours later, Patricia gave a full statement at the police station, handing over all the evidence of her involvement in Marcus's scheme. Arthur's ex-partner was arrested again, this time with charges that would ensure a long sentence. 6 months later, Arthur was in the backyard of his house, watching Lily play with other children from the neighborhood. Morgan Hauling had become one of the most respected transport companies in the region, known not only for the quality of its services, but also for its fair treatment of employees. "Daddy, come play with us," Lily shouted, waving at him. "I'm coming, little one." Arthur smiled, pocketing the documents he had just received, official papers confirming that Lily's adoption was final and unquestionable. No court in the world could question his fatherhood anymore. Eleanor approached, carrying a tray of lemonade for the children. "How are you feeling now that everything is officially settled?" she asked. "Grateful, immensely grateful. And the social project? Are you really going ahead with it?" Arthur had decided to use part of the funds recovered from Marcus to create a support program for children in vulnerable situations in memory of Laura and Claire. Of course, Lily helped me choose the name, Little Hearts Project. She said that's what her mother used to call children. At that moment, Lily ran up to them, breathless but smiling. "Daddy, I just taught the boys the game Grandma taught me." "What game?" "Finding beautiful things in places where no one looks. We found 5 heart-shaped stones." Arthur hugged her, thinking about how a child who had known only suffering in her early years could teach joy to other children. "Daddy," Lily said, looking seriously into his eyes, "can I ask you an important question?" "Of course, little one." "Do you still get sad sometimes when you remember the years you were asleep?" The question caught him off guard. It was something they had never discussed openly. "Sometimes I do." "Why?" "Because this morning, when you thought I was sleeping, I heard you talking to Mommy's picture." Arthur had developed the habit of talking to the photograph of Laura he kept in the living room, thanking her for giving him the chance to be Lily's father. "And what did you hear?" "You said you felt guilty for taking so long to wake up." "It's true. If I had woken up sooner, maybe I could have prevented you and your grandmother from going through such hardship." Lily thought for a moment before answering. "Daddy, remember when you told me about the seeds?" "What seeds?" "You said that some seeds need to stay in the dark for a long time, under the ground, before they become beautiful flowers." Arthur nodded, remembering the conversation. "Maybe you needed to sleep all that time to become the daddy I needed, because if you had woken up sooner, maybe you wouldn't have known how to take care of a girl like me yet." Lily's childish wisdom once again surprised and moved him. "Do you really think so?" "I do, and Mommy thinks so too. Sometimes, when I'm almost asleep, I feel her whispering that everything was planned just right." That night, after putting Lily to bed, Arthur sat in his favorite armchair and reflected on the extraordinary journey he had lived. 1.5 years ago, he was a man lost in a seemingly eternal coma. Today, he was the father of an extraordinary girl, the owner of a prosperous and ethical company, and he had finally found peace with his past. He looked at the photograph of Laura on the shelf and whispered, "Thank you for trusting me. I promise I will take care of her forever." In the next room, Lily slept peacefully, clutching the teddy bear Eleanor had given her and the little prince book that had belonged to her mother. In her dreams, she flew through the skies of Oakland, holding the hands of her mother and grandmother, showing them how beautiful her life had become. And somewhere between dream and reality, 3 generations of strong women, Claire, Laura, and Lily, smiled, knowing that true love always finds a way to blossom, even in the most unlikely circumstances. Arthur's second chance hadn't just been a medical miracle, it had been proof that forgiveness, unconditional love, and the strength of a child can transform any life, no matter how lost it may seem. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Let me know what you thought of my story by giving it a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.